Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Kat. Rita's fine as well. I'm a comic illustrator and artist, aspiring local cryptid, status pending. Today I'm going to talk about the importance of using references when drawing or sketching. I'm going to have a couple housekeeping items at the end if you want to stay that long. My opinion, and shared by many others, using references is really important, especially when you're first learning how to draw, but this is also an important tool for artists with more advanced skills. Why? Because your mental image library is probably not as good as you might think it is. Mine sure isn't. You can't draw something well if you don't know what it looks like. And I have an idea in my head what I want, but I can't always get it onto paper because I don't actually know what it looks like as well as I might think I do. So reference is very useful for that. It's a learning tool as well. So using the references helps to build your ability to draw from your imagination reliably. And even if you feel that your art skills are good and you should still take the time to practice, that is also the fundamentals. I am not good at practicing as much as I should. But the references do help out a lot. It's like why we do life drawing in art school or in art class. So where do you find good references? Personally, I've struggled to find references that are what I'm looking for online. It's only gotten worse since AI. I do keep a folder of what I call inspo folders or inspo pics on my computer. When I come across things on the internet that grab my attention, I just save them, label them, slap them in a folder for later use. I've probably got more pictures in there than I'm ever going to use in my lifetime, and most of them are fashion. Now you can take your own reference photos. This can be limited by your own abilities, range of motion, things you have around. For instance, I'm not all that flexible and I cannot get into most really fancy martial arts poses. I'm not a trained ballerina, gymnast, anything like that. Like anything that requires a lot of flexibility or a very specific pose, I don't know how to do that. I'm just not going to be able to get into that pose. So reference is very useful. Now, pose references can be very useful for drawing things, like I said, like the martial arts, multiple people interacting, dancing, anything like that. Random things, different angles, and those can be hard to capture if you're taking a photo of yourself to make sure you've got what you're looking for. Now I've got a whole pile of reference books. These are some of my favorite reference books. I bought them at various places online, Amazon, various Japanese bookstores. These are all Japanese. They have been the best that I have found personally. I don't really come across a lot of English language pose reference books. Now, what these are not, they are not art instruction books. That's not what this is. This isn't going to give you a guide by or a line by line tutorial on how to draw something. These are just sets of pictures. They're a very useful visual reference for action poses, people together, different angles, extreme angles. I do have quite a few here. I'm not going to go through these. These are not pictures, they are just line drawings. They are a little more suggestive, and you can find them online fairly easily. I believe they're mostly used for like boys love comics for sexually suggestive poses. You can use them for things that are not that as well. It's got a lot of good line drawings of just two people interacting. There's like the hand holding. They cover a variety of different poses and settings, but again, I'm not going to show these. You can't really see anything because they are just line drawings. They're pretty asexual, really, like you can't see anything, but I don't want to upset YouTube. I'm having some thoughts about the puritanical pearl clutching of sites lately. Anyway, thoughts, opinions. But I've got a variety of books. We'll go through these a little bit. I'll show you some B-roll of what's actually in these. I do like, this is one series. It's the new Pose catalog. We've got one that's just men, and there's one of like couples. I will say in this one, The couple poses seem a little stiff, very staged. I still think they're useful, but they're not gonna have a lot of life to them. Personally, it feels very much like the models were a little awkward standing next to each other, but it is still useful to get a pose reference. The next one I have is, is this, and yeah, my Japanese isn't good enough. I can't read that, but this is like a general poses, like around the house, relaxation things from different angles, just various things. I find this one pretty useful as well with the different angles. Then there is this one. Again, is another Boys Love reference, but it is photos. I bought this one specifically because it was all men in suits, and I've been having a heck of a time finding good pictures of men in suits online where they're actually like doing something other than just standing and modeling a suit. It's got a variety of different angles and poses and situations, and I just thought it was very useful to see how somebody looks in a suit while they're moving around. A suit can move very differently than, say, like this t-shirt I'm wearing. Just like the fabric is very different. Now onto some of my favorites. These are the Real Action Pose collection. I have 4 books of this. I have just Real Action Pose collection, then I have volumes 1, 2, and 5. And these are full of a lot of martial arts poses. They have singles. They have groups of 2. I think some of them have up to 4. Most of these feature men, but there are volumes that have women in them as well. They do have some mixed gender photos in some of them. Volume 5, however, is just schoolgirls at different angles. This is still a useful book. And I say that's still useful. You're getting a lot of different poses. And it does also show you how the little skirts move, because that can be difficult to know how to draw the fabric as it moves around the body as you're moving different ways. That is another reason to use pose reference as well. Different fabrics move differently on the body. When you move, they can move differently depending on the weight, the drape, all of that. Now, I did use some of these, I think just the regular one and number 2, basically, to do some rough practice sketches in the sketchbook I hate. I did those in ballpoint pen, and I turned around after I did that practice and drew a more detailed sketch of Courtney in the good sketchbook, and then I turned that into a finished piece. So that's just a little bit of an example of how you can use some of these reference books. You can do more detailed sketches directly out of these. These can be practice in general, like kind of like a life drawing almost, if you don't have access to life drawing, and I know that gets difficult depending on your schedule and where you are. Now, I do also use a lot of fashion photos that I find online as references. Going back to that inspo folder I have on my computer, that's a lot of fashion photos. This helps to build up my knowledge of how clothes look on a body, different styles of clothes, interesting fashion things that I might not see out in the real world. I've got some high fashion photos in there. I've got some street fashion photos. It helps. What a lot of this is doing is building up that mental image library, and then you can take those pieces and put them together for the specific thing you have in your mind. But the references really help out to build up that library in your mind, and to also give you something to look at to help you with your skills and planning. And I'm really harping on the skills thing because I need to practice more, honestly, because I find I'm significantly less frustrated trying to draw something after I've been practicing doing those life drawing things, sketching out of, all these little things I never threw away, sketching out of these with poses and folds and how the clothing works, I'm significantly less frustrated trying to draw my own things after I have done some practice out of there. It helps loosen up your hand, loosen up your mind, builds up some confidence because you know what the thing looks like. Now, something I personally should do more besides just practicing, I need to work on drawing objects and backgrounds. I tend to be very character and clothing focused. It's where my interest lies, but I do want to be able to be better at drawing objects that are around, like, you know, who draws, but like if you're drawing a comic, like I'm trying to do, being able to draw everyday objects as well as just people is good, and those are slightly separate skills. Like drawing people and clothes are going to help you enhance your skills overall, but you do want to also draw the everyday objects just to build that up as well. They'll look more cohesive if you practice drawing objects as well as people, so it doesn't look like one is at one skill level and one is another skill level, and that can happen. And again, I'm not good at backgrounds. I tend to avoid them a lot of the time, other than big blocks of color and texture. And you can get away with that a little bit in comics depending on what's going on in the scene. But having the ability to, say, draw a street scene if you need to would also be useful, and that, again, reference is helpful for that. Now, lately I've been treating everything like practice, and that's helped me a lot in my art journal. It's helped me a lot in my art journey. It relieves a lot of the pressure to try to make everything perfect. Like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake here. This isn't absolutely perfect. I can't share it. I can't let anybody see this. If you treat everything like practice, it takes a lot of stress off. Everything is a learning exercise. Even if you did something really, really great, it's learning. And I do think that perfectionism is definitely not a great thing to... If you think everything has to be perfect before you can show it to somebody, you're never going to show anything to anybody. Now, I don't think perfection is something you can actually attain, but I do think it's very important to try to improve. And if you're like, I want to keep working toward perfection, that can be a very useful mindset. To me, perfection doesn't exist. What's perfect to me not be perfect to somebody else. Also, when you've hit perfection, there's no room to improve, and then what's the point? That is a me thing, but I think striving to improve is always something I aim for, and whether that is the line drawing, the coloring skills. I've been working a lot on my coloring skills lately. I've been pretty happy with the things I've put out. But also, never feel that having to use a reference is a bad thing or makes you a worse artist. You have to know how things look, and you have to do that by looking at the things. So using reference is not a bad thing. Use it. You can draw from imagination. You can plot something out, and if it's not working out, you can find a reference and help you do that. But anyway, yeah, I'm a big advocate for using references. These are just some of my favorite books I've been having. I really enjoy these. I would like to get more references. You can get things like books on architecture. There's a lot of art books that exist for a lot of things. These are just some of the ones I have. I have like some photo books of cityscapes and urban areas downstairs that I also like to look at. But there you can find a lot of things. To me, I like the books. I like having something physical in my hand. I am also mainly a traditional artist. I don't work digitally a lot. That means I also can't hit the undo key. If I put something down in ink, like it's there. But yeah, use the references. It's also just fun to look at stuff. And I like, back in the day when I was in like middle school, high school, early college, I used to buy fashion magazines and rip out pictures that I liked. And that was my photo reference, because the internet was not as full of photos as it is today. Yeah, you can find references around, take your own pictures if that works for you, depending on what you're doing. All right, now on a couple housekeeping things. I did change my channel name back to Rita LaShette, and I'm going to leave it that way for now. I will be starting a new job in a bit over a week, and I'm not ready for new coworkers to find me online yet. I just want a little bit of separation between my paycheck job and my life. No insult to new coworkers, I haven't met them yet. Maybe someday if I can ever figure out a studio name for myself, I will switch to that. But I think for now, since all of my socials are still labeled under Rita LaShette, and I've been using that on and off for a long time, I'm gonna leave it as that for now. Like, I'm cool with that. And additionally, because of the new job schedule, output may change for a while I adapt. We'll see. I'm hoping to still aim for one video or vlog a week, roughly. We will see how I adapt to the new schedule once that starts. Basically have all of next week free, so maybe I'll see if I can think of some things to pre-record to front load myself while I adjust to having a new job. But anyway, thanks for sticking around. I love y'all, and I'll see you later. Bye.